guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I actually have something already prepared and I'm gonna walk you through step by step on how to make your very own baby tee. So to make this you actually need a measuring tape and the body you want to fit this on. So I'm just gonna show you how I measure on my bust on my dress form behind me, because those are my measurements as I made this myself. If you want to, I made a video about that. You can go ahead and click on that here in the eye if you're interested. But I will measure myself, aka my dress form, and show you via that example how I developed this pattern completely without any base block or anything like that, just by measuring and a few steps on the paper pattern, and what to do for sleeves, and then generally how to sew this, of course, with the neck like this, and what you have to watch out for and stuff. So let's start. So a baby tee is generally a shorter, tighter fitted t-shirt. So with the method that I'm going to show you today, you can actually make it as wide and as long as you personally like it to be. So I like a more of a loose fit, not too loose but also not too tight, so that it is a very casual shirt that you can wear whenever. But obviously you can do that however you prefer it. This fit right here, I'm going to show you how it looks on the bust, is a wider fit, so like this here, but obviously if you like the fit to be tighter, you can take out something at the bust, which is the only measurement that we're gonna take, more or less, and you can just make it tighter however you want. So basically what we're gonna start with is take the bust measurement right here. So it is the widest point around your upper chest area over the apex, and mine lays at around 86 centimeters. That's my bust measurement. So what I did for that is just figure that I would like to have a bit of a looser fit, and divided that number of my bust measurement by 2, and then just added something between 5 to 10 centimeters. So I decided to go with a width of 50 centimeters. So basically I added around 8 centimeters to the, or 7 centimeters I think, to the width of half of my bust, and then it was 50 centimeters. So if you want to have a tighter fit, you can add a tiny bit less, or just a 1 centimeter or nothing at all. It depends on what you want, and just use that measurement instead. So I'm going to show you how to do this pattern in a looser fit, and then I'm gonna make one with a tighter fit as well. You can see the difference in the very end, and I'm gonna show you how to make both of the patterns as well, so you have both alternatives. So I'm gonna show you first how to make the fit that I already put on the bust, and then I'm gonna show you the alternative measurements that I used for the tighter fit that I'm gonna do afterwards as well. Then you want to figure out the height of your shirt, which you wanna take from right here where your shoulder and your neckline meet. So up here, it's pretty easy to determine on the bust because there is a seam, but on a person you have kind of like an indent up here on your neck. So where your collarbone goes down and your shoulder goes here, up here you have kind of an indent. So it's also not too important if you find the specific spot, because it is just a t-shirt and it is an elastic fabric that you're going to use, so it doesn't matter too much if it's off by 1 centimeter or so. So just approximately. And you're just going to measure from up here over the apex to however long you want the shirt to be. And I use for my shirt 60 centimeters as the length, which is a medium length, I would say. So it's long enough to put it in your pants if you want to, but it's also not short enough to be cropped, so it's like an in-between. If you want to have a cropped version, or a, let's say, mid-waist and hip, then you probably want to stay at 50 centimeters, somewhere there. And then the third measurement that you want to take is actually your neck circumference. So right here, which is in my case 34 centimeters. And The last one, which is a bit awkward without having sleeves on my bust, so I'm just going to show you on myself, is the sleeve length. So you want to find your shoulder point. So it's like a specific bone right here. I can't really explain that, but same thing for the shoulder point as for the neck point up here. It's just approximate. It doesn't really matter. So from there on, somewhere here, my shoulder point is. It's right here. Actually, it's not somewhere there, but here is my shoulder point. So for you, somewhere around there, you just want to measure down however much or however long you want your sleeve to be. So you can have like a longer sleeve or a shorter sleeve, something that you're comfortable with. I used a sleeve length of 15 centimeters, so it's pretty short because it is a baby tee that I want to make, which usually have rather short sleeves, short and like between tight and medium loose, I guess, I don't know. So I'll be using 15 centimeters for that as well. And that's already all the measurements that you need. Oh no, there's one last one, which is the circumference of your sleeve hem. I have the wrong kind of garment on for this now. But basically you just want to determine how wide you want your circumference, where your sleeve ends, to be. So you can just figure that out on your own. I'm gonna do 30 centimeters. That's how much I used for my tryout piece right here. And that's all the measurements that you need. So let's get to pattern making. Another thing that you have to measure is your shoulder width. There's also a table that I have on my custom size chart. If you remember, that's a PDF free to download on my website. You can just click on the link down below that says custom size chart. There is also a table for specific things like the median of a couple of different people that were measured, and then you have like specific measurements for specific sizes. And there's also a table for shoulder width, but you can always just take that by yourself. If you already found the neck point right here, you just need to measure from that neck point to the shoulder point that we already figured out as well, and that is your shoulder width. So in my case, it's about 12 centimeters. And that is this measurement right here. So here's my sleeve, and that is the measurement from here to here. That is our shoulder width. Okay, so I have my pattern piece already ready-made, obviously, because I already used it, but I'm gonna show you how to work with the numbers that we just took and to get a pattern like this. So the first thing that you want to do is make a base rectangle around the shirt, so it's going to be like the construction, I guess. You want to measure half of the width of your t-shirt that you determined just a second ago. So in my case, I wanted to have 50 centimeters as the width of my shirt. So from here to here, it's 50 centimeters. As you can see up here, that's what I measured. I didn't measure correctly, perfectly, but it's 50 centimeters. So I want to make a line that goes 25 centimeters to the right, just like that. And that's gonna be my hemline. I'm gonna just make this invisible so that you don't get confused. Now we already took our height that we want to use. So in my case, that was 60 centimeters. Which is gonna be the side seam for now, just like that. And then we can just continue this until it meets the center in the middle here as well. So this is our base rectangle. We are only gonna make half of the pattern for now, and then we're gonna mirror that and make a full pattern. I like to have a full pattern for working with elastic fabrics. I don't like to lay my elastic fabrics on fold just because they behave so weirdly. So I just want to have a plain layer of my knit and then have one paper pattern that I put on one layer of fabric and just cut it out. Now, before we do anything else, we have to determine our width of our neck right here. So I measured a 34 width of my neck. So what I like to do is to determine the actual width of my neck. So how much I need to go from here to the right and to the left is just this number divided by 3, and then just use you know, a nice number that's closest. So in my case, that would be 10 centimeters. I'm just gonna divide this by 3, that makes 11.3, and then just use a nice even number to make it easier. So I'm gonna go 10 centimeters to the right, measure it from this point to the right, and then just make a nice curve down. I found that going down around 6 centimeters here in the center front is nice. So I'm just gonna mark this spot and bring this down onto the anchor that I just drew to mark it, and then just make this a nice curve. Now the shoulder itself is sloped down usually. You don't have like this 90-degree angle right here. So just go down here 15 centimeters and connect this with your neckline. And for our shoulder width, we're gonna measure our 12 centimeters that we took a second ago. So that will be right here, and I'm just gonna mark it with a 90-degree angle from this line right here. And from this point on, I'm gonna measure between 18, or let's say between 17 and 19 centimeters onto the side seam right here. I'm just gonna do 18 centimeters. That depends on the depth that you want your shoulder or your sleeve to be. So I found that the depth of 18 centimeters looks quite nice with the width that I chose for my t-shirt. But if you want to have it tighter, you probably want to use less width. If you want to have it looser, you probably want to do a little bit more. So that comes down to preference. So you can choose between anything there, literally. And I'm also just going to mark this spot. From this spot on, just to have a tiny bit of a curve, we're going to go 1 centimeter to the right and also mark this spot and connect it with the point up here in a nice curved way. And that is our armhole that we're going to use. And that's basically already it. The only thing that you need to do now is make a 90-degree angle here and connect it down with the hemline nicely. Even it out a tiny bit so that it doesn't overlap over to the side, and you can go ahead and delete all of the construction lines. Now done with that, you can go ahead and copy this out and just mirror it to the left. And that is our front piece. So the back piece is pretty similar and pretty easy actually. So you just want to copy out everything of the front piece, just copy it out on a different piece of paper. Then you want to make the following changes. So our armhole or our shoulder seams, we're just gonna move it upwards 1 centimeter. That just makes our shoulder seam appear more towards the front. That's just a tiny bit more flattering. So that's that thing that we're gonna do. And then this here, we're gonna move up pretty drastically. I'm gonna say 5 centimeters. So we're gonna be almost at the height of our shoulder and then just even out the curves. And then you can go ahead and look if the curves of the shoulder look good generally. So you just want to basically take your front piece that you already made, flip it upwards, and then just put it onto your shoulder seam and check if this here is a nice even curve and if this here goes nicely. So this is a pretty steep curve. You can just even this out a tiny bit better. And this should be fine as we're gonna sew around that anyways. So this is a good curve that we're gonna be able to work with. And that is already our back piece done as well. And our sleeves are pretty easy because they're also based on a rectangle. So for the sleeves, we already took the circumference of our hem. In my case, that was 30 centimeters. And we already took the length of our sleeves. So we can just make a rectangle that is 30 centimeters wide, and that is the height of my sleeve, which was, I totally forgot, I'm gonna measure it, which was 17 centimeters. Now we can determine the middle, which is right here, but since we heightened the shoulder seam for the back piece, we actually have to move the middle a tiny bit to the left to make up for that. So we're gonna move it 1 centimeter to the left, and then we're just gonna draw a nice curve over here. I'm gonna use 8 centimeters as the sleeve side seam height. I would say something between 7 and 10 is fine, depends on what kind of fit you want. I'm gonna do 8, and I'm just gonna draw in a nice curve that comes down to 8 centimeters in the back as well, just like that. And then I can already cut away the construction of my sleeve, and then I can go ahead and measure the curve if it fits to the sleeve that we made in the front. So I'm just gonna measure from here to here. That's the back, which is 18.8. So let's say it's 19, and this right here is 19.6, which is fine. We can go ahead and make this 1 centimeter wider. So we're just gonna go 1 centimeter to the right here, just to even it out. And we're gonna do the same thing for the front. And now the sleeve works perfectly fine with this pattern. And the last thing that we're gonna do is make the neckline. So the neckline, now we need to measure the front and the back, because that's more or less the only thing that we have to do a tiny bit of math for. So that measures 25 centimeters. And this one right here, the back neckline, measures 20 centimeters. So we have a neck of 45 centimeters. And now what I like to do for the strap that's gonna be sewn into the neckline, that's gonna be an elastic strap that lays in a round way but is cut on, you know, it's a straight pattern piece, and that is gonna get sewn in a circular way, which means that we have to take out a tiny bit because it needs to stretch on one side. So what I really like for necklines is to take out about 10% of the neck circumference that we measured on the pattern. So in my case, that would be minus 4.5 centimeters, so 40.5 centimeters. So we're gonna have an even number again. So let's do 40 centimeters as the length for our neck piece. So basically what I did was 45 times 0.1, which is 4.5. And that is what we have to take out of our total. And then to just make it an even number, I just decided to go for 40 centimeters. So we can go ahead and make a strip that is 40 centimeters long, and then for the height I want to have a band that is gonna end up being 2 centimeters broad. So I'm just gonna make a pattern piece that is 4 centimeters wide, because I'm gonna fold it in half in the middle. Necklines like that always lay on fold, so you always want to have it doubled, so that you don't have a weird seam or something on the inner side of your neckline. So you always want to have double your width that you're going to have in the end, and then the length is determined by this right there. And you're basically already done. What I like to do here is to just add 2 centimeters on every hem, because I'm gonna fold it in and top stitch it. For the shirt that I'm gonna do with you guys though, I'm not gonna do it for the sleeve, because I want to have something similar to this, but just not cinched in by 10% on the sleeve as well. So I wanna have a colored hem here. But this here, I'm gonna make 2 centimeters smaller and add a piece that measures this right here times 2 centimeters, and then the 2 centimeters doubled. So I'm basically gonna add another piece like this onto the hem of the sleeves. So that would be the finished pattern piece right there. It's pretty easy, it's a pretty straightforward piece to make, and I can go ahead and cut this out and show you how to sew this shirt together. It's pretty easy. It's a few stitches and a few seams, and then you're already done. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is actually make the neckline. It's just way easier once you can kind of still lay the pieces flat. So we want to start with putting the shoulder seams together. Also, make sure to iron your pattern pieces beforehand, because it's just so much easier if you have them lay like this instead of in a circle for the sleeves, for example. So that's what I'm gonna do with all of my pattern pieces first. So I'm overlocking everything. I am not sewing anything with my normal industrial machine. I am overlocking everything because it is an elastic stitch. So if you are working with a domestic machine, you can either use your zigzag stitch, or some domestic machines already have an overlock stitch. And if you have a very special machine, then you might even have an elastic like kind of stitch and an overlock stitch, something like that. You might want to experiment a bit with that, but the best and secure way would be to have an elastic straight stitch and then something that fixes the raw edges in place, so a serger and sewing machine in one kind of thing. I don't have that, unfortunately, or I do, but I just don't want to put it up at the moment. I'm just a bit lazy. So I'm gonna use my overlock for this, which is totally fine. If you don't have any of these things, you just have a domestic machine with a straight stitch, you need to sew while pulling on the fabric so that the elasticity still remains, because otherwise you just lose the main thing about elastic fabrics, which you don't want for a t-shirt. You want it to stay elastic, so you might want to experiment with that as well before you go on to sew the real thing. But that's just a small part. Now we're gonna start with putting the shoulder seams together. So I'm, as per usual, just putting right sides together and then just fixing these two seams in place with my serger. So this is what that seam looks like. And now you want to iron that seam allowance to the back. And that's basically all the preparation that we have to do before we can attach the neckline onto this piece. And we can continue with preparing this piece right here. So this needs to be folded in half so that we have one nice edge in the inner corner. Just like that, and then we're gonna fold it back up again and put right sides of the outer corners together and just close this seam right here. So once done with that, it's gonna look something like this. I just close this with my normal machine so that I can iron this open, and it makes the least amount of bulk that you can possibly have in a piece like that. So you want to iron this open, and then you could fold it back onto itself and just give it another press so that it stays. And now I can just pin it with all of the notches. Speaking about notches in your neck piece, this is what mine looks like. Quite a mess. But I'm gonna explain to you how I put the notches into my neck piece and why there are different notches on either side. So basically you have to keep in mind that you took 10% out of the overall neckline that you measured for your t-shirt base, so the front and the back piece. And I used 40 centimeters instead of 45 centimeters. So what I did to determine the notches right here was basically just divide 40, so the neckline width, by 45, the original neckline that we measured. That gives you a number that you need to multiply your front neck width and your back neck width with. And these numbers basically tell you where the side seam lays. That's what I did basically, and then I divided the points by 2 again, so I have the center back and the center front. And what I did for this, because I have different numbers on either side, I just mirrored the front and the back notches on either side, just so that I don't have to turn the neck piece in a specific way to have front or back. Okay, let's continue. I hope you understand. And that's what it's gonna end up looking like. So I'm gonna use my tailor's hem right here to iron this, just because it's also going to lay on your shoulders, which is going to be a round surface. But you want to iron the seam allowance of your neck piece into the shirt so that everything lays nice and flat. And while doing that, you also want to guide your knit piece right here to lay flat and round. So just like that. And the hardest part is already done, which is the neck. So what we can do now, it depends on if you have one piece for your sleeve or you have an extra hem like I do. So you want to prepare them exactly the same way as you prepared the neck piece. So you just want to iron them in half, just like that, and then you can go ahead and also make a loop out of these and just sew them together right here. Then iron them open like the neck piece and flip them on itself again and prepare them. You're gonna sew them in at the very end, so you can also do that later in sewing. So the next thing that we're gonna do is put the sleeves in. You want to do that while the side seam is still open because it's just way easier to handle the seam right here. You want to find the back side, which is the less steep side or the longer side. So in my case, it's this side right here, and my back is this piece. So this one goes on the other side, and this one goes here. And you just want to put right sides together as per usual and close the seam of the sleeves. And now done with this, we can go ahead and put the side seam together on both sides, and once done with that, we're gonna attach the hem of the sleeves and also fix the hem of the shirt itself. Now for sewing this side, the side seam generally, in my opinion, it's the easiest thing to just sew from the hem towards the sleeve, because you want the seam allowance in the sleeve to go and point towards into the sleeve, so like this. And if you start from the hem going towards the sleeve, the machine just does that automatically. So you want to close both seams. So now for the sleeves, we're just gonna take our prepared sleeve hem, which should fit right here, and we're gonna put right sides together and just put the seams together and have 2 layers of the blue and 1 layer of the shirt match up, and then you can just go ahead and sew this on, and that's gonna make a really cute and nice sleeve hem. Okay, so the sleeves are done. I also went ahead and overlocked the hem, did nothing else, just overlocked it. We're gonna iron the sleeves the same way we ironed the neckline. So we're gonna let the seam allowance of the hem point into the sleeve and then just iron a nice fold right here. And that's what the sleeves look like. They look really, really cute with this trim. And for the hem, we're just gonna fold the hem up 2 centimeters and top stitch it while stretching it, and that's all. And And that's it already for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't already, please go and hit the subscribe button down below and ring the bell. Please go and hit the subscribe button down below and ring the bell so you get notified every time that I post. I post on Sundays, so you can keep an eye out for my videos then. If you haven't already, you should definitely check out my Instagram, as I am doing loads of reels all about sewing, and I'm giving you so many tips and tricks in a short 15-second video. And it's a lot of fun doing that, so if you're interested in seeing that on your daily For You page, that's TikTok, on the Instagram feed, go ahead and check down in the description for the link to my socials. The handle is the same everywhere, so you can go and search for my profiles on any social that I have. If you have any suggestions on what I should do next, feel free to write a comment down below and leave me your name. So if I choose your suggestion for another video, I will definitely make sure to name the pattern after you, as you're the one who suggested it. That's a little thing that I started in my last pattern making video. If you're interested in that, go ahead and put any suggestion down in the comment below. I would be super happy to read all of those, because, you know, it's always nice to know what you guys want to see me do next, and not only me come up with ideas that you might not even be interested in. So if you would be so kind, just pop your suggestion down below. And yeah, I think that's all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you next Sunday. Bye guys! Okay, so now that the t-shirt is done, I actually wanted to talk about something. I've tried filming this a couple of times, which is why I wrote down a script now, because I was just so nervous. So I wanted to bring awareness to the horrible situation in Ukraine, and therefore decided to donate part of the sales of the t-shirt pattern to a charity. I'm taking part in anti-war demonstrations here in Munich, which is why I'm also gonna embroider a statement piece onto the left side of the t-shirt, right where my heart is. I will be wearing this shirt to bring further attention to the situation in Ukraine, which is just so unjust and so horrible. I will donate 50% of the sales of the t-shirt pattern of the next 2 weeks to the charity SOS Kinderdörfer, which is Children's Villages translated, which is a trusted charity and organization here in Germany who help worldwide, but specifically now, of course, in Ukraine. They help evacuate families to safe locations in neighboring countries. They donate food, they donate blankets and general hygiene products. They give medical aid where needed, and most importantly, which is why I chose this organization, they help and support victims in this horrible situation with all of the psychological distress that a war like that brings. And they help especially children. Which is, you know, super heartbreaking that they have to go through something like that. I will link their website down below in the description, and also other charities that you can donate to. Everything helps. If you can't afford the pattern or you choose another charity, any dollar, euro, whatever your currency is helps, so please consider donating and helping in this horrible situation. I will keep you updated on how much money we collect and how much money we'll be able to donate in 2 weeks' time over on my Instagram, which is linked down in the description below. So thank you so much, and let's continue with the embroidery.